Welcome to the IdahoSports.com Fall Football Preview. I'm Will Hoenike. This is Matt Harris. That's Paul Kingsbury. We're talking a little 2A football today, where it was a good season last year, hoping for an even better one this year. Let's take a look at the bracket, get things started off the right way there. You see Grangeville Bulldogs picking up the championship. Head coach Jeff Lindsley and his crew winning it all. They defeated Aberdeen in that state championship game. 2A, you tend to see a little bit of fluctuation, guys, because the numbers can kind of go up, can go down, but there also do tend to be some of those teams that year in and year out, produce good programs.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are some of those traditional powers that you see there every single year. You think of Westside, you think of Grangeville. There's a few other. Declo is one of them that you can think of as well that are constantly there. But you see a lot more tendency in 2A. There's going to be more cycles in terms of prosperity and then down in the doldrums. It just seems to go in cycles because in those 2A schools, I mean, you can only have the talent you can draw from in a small town, and the small towns keep getting smaller in some respects.
Sometimes you just have a class that isn't as big in numbers or isn't as big in size.
Right, and a lot of times you've got that athletic class that's coming up through. Sometimes you don't have the athletic class, and you don't have the numbers of a 5A, 4A, even a larger 3A school to pull from. Like you said, you've got what you've got. I grew up in a 2A school, and the numbers that you had were the numbers that you had, and you could see 10 years down the road what you were going to have.
Yeah.
Not a lot of move-ins, moves-outs. Like you said, it is what it is in 2A.
You do see some of those towns where they'll be like, oh, hey, maybe we have a down year this year, but our 7th grade team is great.
Yeah.
2-3 years, we're going to go ahead and start cycling back up. Let's start down in District 5, the state runner-up Aberdeen. Head coach Jeff Duffin had a good group last year, made it to the state championship game. Pretty good group again this year. I mean, they should be a pretty competitive squad once again.
Yeah, and talking with the coaches, they all feel that they're probably Aberdeen's still a team to beat. I mean, they're the team to beat until someone knocks them off in the conference. I mean, they lose Hilario Carrillo, who was All-Area Player of the Year in District 5, Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year in the conference.
All-State in
All-State
both
as well. Yeah, Jared Carrasco, Stetson Nielsen, Juan Juarez. He was a big defensive end for them. Cesar Cerna, they called him the Hammer in Aberdeen. I mean, a very physical football team, very, very good team. The state runner-up 2 years in a row. I mean, they were 11-0 heading into their game against Grangeville. Hilario Carrillo breaks his ankle. Grangeville comes out, smacks him in the mouth. They're up 16-0 early on. And before you know it, Grangeville rolled to a 30-point state championship victory. But Aberdeen, a very good team. You've got Westside. They kind of had a down year. You typically see them in the state semifinals. Prior to last year, they had been in the state semifinals every year since, I believe, 2009. I believe it was. They were there at least there every year. And last year they got knocked out in the first round against North Fremont. And so they went, started out the season 7-0. They were on a 19-game win streak at that point. And hey, they lose their last 2 games. Their season's done. But they're always in contention. Well, they're always in contention. No matter what, the coaches will tell me, we might have a bit of a down year. It's like, well, you're still Westside. You still have that caliber of talent. Right. And then you've got other schools like Malad. Used to be a power. They've struggled for 4 or 5 years now. Soda Springs has had some struggles in recent memory. You got Bear Lake, who's been a dormant program as well. They may be able to make a run at it this year too. So I mean, it's still Aberdeen's conference until someone takes it from them. But I mean, it's going to be a little bit down. They do bring some players back though. Riven Mack, he'll be there. He'll be their leading ball carrier. You've got Carson Beck as well. Joseph Lemos, an all-state kicker, but he also plays very well at running back and at linebacker, defensive back, kind of a combo there. So they're still going to be a very, very good team. Excellent coaching in Aberdeen. I'm looking for a good year from them.
And you mentioned playing both sides of the ball. That's one thing you really start seeing more of when you get into the 2A ranks. Are those great athletes playing on both sides of the ball just because of numbers. In the 5A, 4As, you see it. You see a lot of times, the quarterback's also the kicker, or you see the running back playing linebacker, something like that.
Linemen playing on both sides.
Exactly. Yeah. But you get into the 2As, you've got to go with what you've got. And if you don't have a stacked team, if you've got a Will Hoenike that is just the standout athlete, besides living in a dream world, you've got to take advantage of that. And make sure
I was going to say lay off the cough syrup.
Yeah. and take advantage of that athleticism and basically bleed it dry. And when you both sides of the ball, you get those athletes, that's something special.
There are times in the 2A, as you mentioned, where maybe your quarterback, for obvious reasons, you protect him, and maybe he only plays one way, but a lot of quarterbacks double as safeties.
Right.
Traditionally, if you've only got 20 kids on a team, 21 kids on a team, you're going to have a lot of guys go on both offense and defense, and also special teams, which brings in conditioning, you got to be in pretty good shape.
Yep.
And you see the injury factor as well. I mean, you lose one of those guys, you potentially lose a big piece not only on offense but on defense, and that's why those small school levels, when they say injuries are the X factor to our season, they really do mean it.
Absolutely.
Going into week 1, you got District 5. We talked about them. Go up to the Nuclear Conference, District 6, 8/26. That's the day the season opens here in Idaho. A game that, in terms of just sheer name power, Firth and West Side.
Yeah.
Boy, that is just in terms of history and years past, some big clashes. That's a great game.
They've met a couple of times in the state tournament, and I believe it was the state semifinals, and just great games overall. Fun games. I think I had the privilege of calling both of those games, and there was just a fun game to call. So close, so intense. The fans were into it, and they've met at the beginning of the season every single year for quite some time now, and every every meeting at the beginning of each year is always close. It's always 8-0 or 14-6 or some sort of weird, wonky number, and it's a close game overall. It's a battle between the two, and that's two quality programs.
It is, and Firth came into the bracket last year as a 6th seed, and they gave Aberdeen probably one of the best games of the year they had. They almost got past the Tigers. They ended up losing 16 to I believe 12 16 to 12. That could have gone a different direction, and Aberdeen ended up 17-0 in the next game, 28-7 the next game before finally losing to Grangeville. But they almost beat a very good Aberdeen team.
In that Nuclear Conference, you've got West Jefferson. They returned 3 players who were all-state caliber last year: Gabe Pancheri, Braxton Ramirez, Tristan Wright. That's a team that plays back-to-back 3A games, opponents, on the road. They go to Teton and then to Homedale. Those are 2 tough matchups for a good West Jefferson team.
I think it's one of those ones that will help build them up for later on down the road when it comes to state tournament time, to kind of make them tougher, make their schedule just even that much more tougher to help prepare them for that. West Jefferson, they've done an excellent job under Jason Taylor, former Marsh Valley Eagles coach. He's really revitalized that program with his double wing offense and just getting overall toughness out of that group, because West Jefferson was a perennial doormat for several years. And I remember when they won their first game after I believe it was like a 3-year losing streak or something like that. And you wouldn't believe just the joyous celebration that they had that they finally did that. But then they went on to a winning season as well, and they capped that off with a Nuclear Conference championship last year. This is a team that I think could repeat. They bring back those pieces, and the double wing offense, just like it is in Aberdeen, it's so tough to stop.
And seeing West Jefferson last year, 7-3, great season for them. However, those early games in your season really define how it's going to go, whether they're conference games or not, whether they're classification games or not. And that Homedale is one that I'm really going to keep my eye on, because Homedale is right now the shining star of the SRV. They've kind of overtaken Fruitland at this point as the one to look at. And so coming into a very good 3A team, we're really going to see we're going to see what West Jefferson's made of at that point.
North Fremont, a solid team, went 3-1 in conference last year. Ryrie, Salmon, both looking to bounce back.
Yeah, Ryrie's been down for a number of years. Salmon used to be a power. I mean, our main man Tyson, who's behind the camera, he was there for a long time.
He's singing the fight song right now.
He is right now, and
I still get thank you cards that he actually left Salmon.
Yeah,
please keep him.
Yeah. Thank you for making him work for you and keeping him out here in Western Idaho. Yeah, Salmon, they have a tradition. Have struggled recently. Ryrie really hasn't had that much of a tradition. They've got Jim Newton, former NFL player, in as the head coach, and he's trying to establish that. It's a tall order in Ryrie just because, again, they've really never had a football tradition to begin with. But, again, trying to bounce back in year 2, that's where you normally see the progression. Moving
up north now to the Central Idaho League, just 3 teams in that league: Grangeville, Orofino, St. Mary's. Grangeville, the defending state championship, they open at Moscow. I mean, sometimes you'll see a team play up a division. Not that often you see a team play up 2 divisions where they're going from 2A to 4A. But head coach Jeff Lindsley, just 6 starters back, but boy, he lost a lot of firepower. Some good opportunity for kids there in Grangeville to step into some roles and keep that thing rolling.
When you're in a 3-team conference, you've got to do it, and especially in an area like District 2, not a lot of teams hanging out. It's not like you can just go next door like you can here in the Valley and get a game. So them playing Moscow, we're actually going to have a broadcast team. We're planning on having a broadcast team there for Grangeville Moscow. See how that turns out. It'll be very interesting to see what the Bulldogs bring back this year as they're defending their state title. St. Mary's 8-2 last year. Lumberjacks looking very, very strong. They played 3 road games. Now at Grangeville on the 7th. That could be for the league title.
Well, you only have 3 road games on a schedule where you're playing 8 or 9 games. Things are already in your favor. 2 returning All-Staters on the defensive line, Nate Masterson and Donovan Rattini. That's a couple of nice players. You got to win those games in the trenches. You have
Yeah.
two defensive linemen like that. That's a heck of a start.
And all three of those teams are very quality teams. Orofino under Galen Kuykendall, he's been a very, very good team. I mean, you lose Grangeville loses guys this year like Cashmitter and Harris that really played an impact for them last year. That really helped lead them to that title game victory against Aberdeen. And then you look at St. Mary's. I mean, they had a very good year as well. And Aberdeen played them at their place. Maybe travel was a factor, but again, St. Mary's a very good team. All of them looking to be very good once again this year.
2A Western Idaho Conference here down in District 3, which is where we're sitting right now, right smack in the middle of District 3. New Plymouth, Nampa Christian, Melba. 3 good teams on any given day. You throw them in a hat, you pull out a name, you don't know how they're going to come up.
The last couple of years it's been, and especially last year, it was Nampa Christian. Nampa Christian's name would have come out 2 or 3 times when you delved into that hat. They've had very, very good teams in Nampa Christian. They're bringing back a lineman who plays both sides of the ball, Braxton Bujak, first team on both sides. I mean, that's huge. So basically he's out there playing on the line, turnover, touchdown, he just kind of turns around, gets back into position and goes. And that's huge for a team like that. So the other teams that you mentioned, New Plymouth, Melba was 6-3 last year. They're kind of looking at Nampa Christian, that's where the target is right there. But coming into it, Coal Valley has their quarterback coming back, Lithander. They have linemen coming back. They're second team Mason Drum at center. I mean, how big an important job is center on the team? They don't get a lot of credit, but that's a very important role.
If you don't have a good center, everybody in the stadium sees it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Council had a pretty good center.
You might have heard of him.
Back.
Yeah, Matt Paradis. NFL, Super Bowl.
Well, above all of that, he actually won our Gridiron Game Picks one year when he was in high school. That really set him. That was a stepping stone to his fame.
He was kind of flatlined. He won that, and the trajectory just...
The $100 he won that year, I think he invested it in training.
Well, and he walked on at Boise State, so that might have bought him the books that he needed.
It might have.
You never know how things are.
We're still waiting on the return on investment, of course, but we
got to use that little anecdote in the preview.
True.
I kind of pays
That's
for
true.
itself.
That's a good point.
New Plymouth. New Plymouth has a trove of players coming back. Jake Wilson, running back, linebacker, first team, second team. Very, very good player in Wilson. Fernley, first and second. And there's just very good players coming back that have been all conference, and they're a year older, a year wiser, and a year tougher. And so I might mention New Plymouth here in a minute or two, a little bit more, but watch out.
Melba with their quarterback, first team all conference, Eli Bangerter, also a very good baseball player. They're going to be tough to watch under former BSU Broncos Sherm Blaser, the head coach out there. Coal Valley Christian, you mentioned them. I just wanted to throw this in really quick. Their overall record was, 2-5, 2-6, something like that.
Yeah.
But if you look at the scores, that Charger team was in almost every game they played. They, this close, they bring back 5-6 kids who had all league honors. Don't sleep on them.
Don't go to sleep on the Chargers. And you and I have done, we tend to do 1 or 2 Coal Valley games a year. We're going to do, I think, Coal Valley Declo, 1st of September, I believe. So, we always like to get out there. Matt Bedlinger is a great AD out there, always very hospitable. So, like you said, keep your eye on that, because when you're in close games, the record shows what it shows, but it doesn't. You have to look at those scores. You have to look at what happened in the games, and with Coal Valley, that's definitely true.
And I think if in general, recently, at least in the Western Idaho Conference, the conference in general has been down outside of Nampa Christian. It just statewide, when you come to that first round of the state tournament, the state playing games, if that's what you want to call it, it feels like that's where the Western Idaho Conference struggles once they play teams outside of their district. It feels now like the conference is on the uptick once again. They've got more talent in there, more returning talent than really in a long time, and a potential chance to make a run at something bigger.
Yep, you're absolutely
One
right.
of the best returning players in all of 2A, Tyler Matthews of Declo. That's the 2A Canyon Conference in District 4, just a two-team division, which we'll talk more about coming up. But you've got Declo, Tyler Matthews, Kelly Kidd, the longtime head coach. You talk about programs that have been fairly entrenched in this state. Declo fans looked at a 7-win season, I think it was 2-3 years ago, and their fans may have been scratching their head going, man, what the heck is wrong? And
what went wrong?
They bounced back and won 9 games each year since. But, you got a great player in Matthews to build off of, a lot of tradition, good running backs. They like to pound the ball. When push comes to shove, you got to expect Declo is going to be in the conversation.
And they'll pound the ball left, they'll pound it right up the gut, they'll run right over top of you. I mean, those guys are relentless in Declo. They are very, very well coached with Kelly Kidd and his staff. And anytime you watch a Declo team, you know you're in for a physical battle. No matter the size of the players they have on the field, some of the smallest players have been some of the toughest kids I've watched coming out of Declo, and I don't know if that's something due to wrestling or whatnot, but just the mental toughness and the physical toughness that have been instilled into those kids, and then the execution as well in Kelly Kidd's offense and on defense has been fun to watch.
Paul, could you do me a favor really quick? I need you to read me the entire Canyon Conference schedule for the upcoming year.
I think Declo should be playing Wendell at some point during the season. Yeah, it's actually October 21st.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
There's the one conference game all year. We'll talk more about that coming up and how that kind of afflicts the entire 2A the entire 2A classification, if you will. We're going to take a quick time out here on IdahoSports.com. When we come back, we'll have the rest of our conversation about the 2A bracket, and we'll also have some upcoming changes, some things to be looking for. You're watching the IdahoSports.com Football Preview 2A edition. We'll be right back.
Check out my multi-movie simulation station.
Why wouldn't you just take Cable One's new Ultimate TV experience powered by TiVo? It's a whole home DVR that lets you record 4 HD shows at once. Cool. Cable One, it's just common sense.
Some people go the extra mile. Your Northwest Toyota dealer goes the extra 25,000 miles. They give you 2 years or 25,000 miles of no-cost maintenance and 24-hour roadside assistance. It's called Toyota Care, and it's included with every new Toyota. That means wherever you are, you'll be prepared for anything. Get Toyota Care no-cost maintenance and roadside assistance at your Northwest Toyota dealer today. The best in the Northwest. Toyota, let's go places.
Valleywide Cooperative is a locally owned farm supply cooperative committed to meeting the needs of its customers since 1920. We provide you products and services of the highest quality. We are found serving our customers throughout southern Idaho, eastern Oregon, western Wyoming, and other neighboring states. We provide agronomic products and services, bulk feed and petroleum, competitive services in our propane division, and a vast array of products in our Valley Country store locations. Let us help you. Come see us today at Valleywide Cooperative.
Here come the last of the 2016s.
Stylish Prius, sporty Camry, adventurous RAV4, they're all here. But not for long. Come in and get the 2016 Toyota you want before they are gone.
Toyota, let's go places. It was our dream to move out here. I just wasn't sure what she would think. Took her away from her friends, asked her to do twice the work of most kids her age. But through it all, she never gave up. On me or anything else. Wonder where she learned that. Massey Ferguson, the last tractor you'll ever need.
Welcome back to the IdahoSports.com Fall Football Preview Show. Talking a little 2A football right now. Before we went to the break, we were talking about the 2A Canyon Conference. Just 2 teams in that division, Declo and Wendell. Therefore, there's only one conference game, period. What that means is I'm joined now by Matt Harris and also Paul Kingsbury of IdahoSports.com. That means scheduling a lot of non-conference games. Wendell in particular, they play at one point 4 straight 3A SCIC teams. Those are the Buells, the Kimberleys, the Goodings of the world, just to fill a schedule. I mean, if you're a 2A coach, finding games, you can't schedule down because those are 8-man teams unless you're going to ask Hagerman or Valley to put 3 more players on the field for a given game. You have to schedule up. So teams like Wendell, Declo, you get up into the Central Idaho League with Grangeville, Orofino, and St. Mary's.
Yep.
It's got to be a scheduling nightmare, and it's got to be a travel nightmare for those programs.
That's where the athletic directors really make their money. It's making phone calls, shaking hands, and we'll come there, you come here, and it is a nightmare. And you're right, they can't play down. Every once in a while, you might see a 1A school agree to do that. I haven't seen it very often in my time, but you'll see it once in a while. But yeah, playing up. But on the other hand, is that really a bad thing? You play up to your competition. So if you're playing a 3A schedule against mediocre to decent 3A teams, when you come back and play your conference schedule against mediocre to good 2A teams, you're going to be better for it.
We mentioned Declo, Kelly Kidd, the AD, playing the role of AD and coach.
Yeah.
To fill a non-conference schedule, they're playing teams from District 2, District 3, District 4, and District 5. I mean, that's a lot of work just to get a schedule put together.
You might as well just be an independent if that's what you're doing. I mean, it's tough. You feel for those schools because that's what they have to do, but at the same time, then you worry about money. Well, how much is it going to cost to travel all the way to District 2 from District 4 or all the way to District 6 or wherever they may be going? But at the same time, if you're a 3A school, it's like, do I really want to play this 2A school and almost, in a sense, water down my schedule if they're not as good of a quality program? And that's something that they have to take into consideration. For the 2As, though, like Paul was saying, they don't have a choice. This is just the way it is. And unfortunately, with the way that communities are going now, the smaller ones are getting smaller, and the bigger ones are getting bigger. In the middle, it's just kind of slowly pulling in one direction or the other. There's no real, hey, we're moving to the Shelleys and the Declos and the St. Anthony's and the all those mid-range type of communities in Idaho. And Salmon is a great example of it. I mean, they were 3A, they're slowly moving down. They were moved down to 2A, and now they're a lower level 2A because more kids are moving out, more families are moving out. So it's very, very tough for them. You feel for them, but at the same time, this is their reality every single year.
Paul, one thing that we see a lot on IdahoSports.com nowadays, these last few years, when you go look at a schedule, you may see a game between, and I'm pulling this out of left field, you may see a game between a Grangeville and a Declo, but they meet at Eagle High School and play at Eagle High School. That seems to be one compromise you're seeing schools starting to make in order to get some more games.
And that's fantastic for us. From a very selfish point of view, because we love those games. You get to get two teams that are not in our general area, but they're also games where people can enjoy them that couldn't make that trip. But it is a great compromise. You don't have to get that full bus ride either way. Both teams save money, which in this day and age is always a good thing. If you can pad that budget a little bit, still get a game in against a quality opponent, absolutely.
And then you look at those northern schools, the St. Mary's, the Grangevilles, the Orfinos of the world, they're having to play Washington schools because they like I said, they can't play 1As.
Yeah.
And the 3As, there's only so many 3As up there. I mean, you have Grangeville playing Moscow, and so that's an option that they've had to do, and Moscow has agreed to play them. And I mean, you see a lot of Washington or even Montana schools in there as well. You'll see that quite a bit. And that's just the reality of being in 2A in this time and place.
One thing that we get to change up a little bit this year with IdahoSports.com, we're pretty excited about it, actually, when it comes to state tournament time, which includes 2A for football, 2A for boys and girls basketball, statewide audio web rights. All the games, we no longer have the rights to the video, but what we were able to do is we were able to work out a deal to keep the audio rights on IdahoSports.com. So, Paul, for people who aren't able to travel, maybe grandma and grandpa live in Michigan, whatever the case may be, they're still able to follow state tournament stuff for free live on the internet.
Absolutely. For 10 years, IdahoSports.com was the destination for people to go during state tournaments to watch those games if they couldn't be there in person. I mean, we always encourage you to go there in person. Now, the state association has moved away from IdahoSports.com and gave that contract to an outside company for the video rights. They split, though, and the audio rights, were available. And we bid for those rights, and last week the IHSA Board of Directors voted to award IdahoSports.com the exclusive streaming rights for the state tournaments. Now, what does that mean? One, it means for radio stations, nothing. If a radio station wants to go do a game, great, do the game. That is between the school and the IHSAA. We have nothing to do with it. We encourage radio stations to come. We actually wish more radio stations would make the trip to do state tournament games for their fans. They love it. It's an institution all across the country for high school sports and radio. Now, if those radio stations want to stream that game online on the internet, that's where the discussion has to take place between IdahoSports.com and that radio station. Two, what is it? It's an audio stream. It's just like radio, but better is what we like to say. It's not confined to a 50-mile, 75-mile radius based on the wattage of the antenna. Worldwide, you can tune in, watch it, or listen to it. Excuse me.
Not watch it.
Sorry, 10 years of habit coming back there.
Yeah.
But what it also means is we can actually hire uglier broadcasters because they're not going to be.
Boy, it opens the
horizons are just expanding for us.
So Tyson could actually come on and start doing some state tournament broadcast. But seriously, what it does, it keeps us involved. It keeps one important difference between the video games this year and the audio games will be ours are going to be presented for free like we always have for the last 10 years. plan is to continue to do that. This is a 5-year contract that'll run through 2021, which I'm excited about. It should be fun. If hopefully we're all still around at that point.
I'd hope so.
So that's where the audio streaming rights are. We're happy to have them. We're happy to stay involved, and we look forward to the future.
A couple teams you might be hearing for free. We like to do this here. Is I like to kind of put the light on you guys a little bit, make you guys the expert.
Can you dim it a little bit?
Well, that I can't do anything about that light up there. It's from what I understand, it's got a couple billion years of life left on it. But we're calling it our On the Spot. We've done it for all the classifications, no different here. Our 2A classification, first of all, Matt, I want to start with you. Who's a 2A team that we maybe haven't talked much about today that's a team that, we could be doing an audio webcast in a state tournament about?
I'm going to go back to the Southeast Idaho Conference here for just a second, and it's a team that really has struggled for quite some time. The Bear Lake Bears.
Yeah.
And Bear Lake, they went 4-5 last year. Ryan Messerly, now in his second season as the head coach in Montpelier for Bear Lake High School. Last year, decent year. Like I said, 4-5. They lost in the first round of state tournament. Averaged 23.5 points per game on offense. Gave up 23.4 points per game on defense. So that balances out. But Ryan told me last year, Coach Messerly told me, that there is a wealth of talent coming up through the lower ranks into Bear Lake High School. It's a talent that they have not had for a long, long time. And every single coach that I've talked to in the Southeast Idaho Conference has said that Bear Lake, while Aberdeen may be the front runner right now, Bear Lake may be the team to beat in the end in the conference. And that surprised me because there were several years where Bear Lake went 0 maybe 1 win. Jared Farmer came in, took over the program, got them to 500 for a couple few years, and then you bring in Ryan Meshley, and now the talent's up there. I mean, the kids have been flying under the radar. This is a perfect on-the-spot pick for me. I mean, they haven't won the conference title in years, and they haven't had a strong record in recent memory outside of those 500 seasons. So Bear Lake could surprise quite a few people being a non-traditional 2A power.
Paul walking way out on a limb here for his 2A under the radar.
If you know anything about Paul, you know where this is going.
Yeah, I swear this has nothing to do with the fact that I graduated from this school. Barely. But I did graduate.
Somehow. They just wanted to get rid of you.
That's actually more true than you know. New Plymouth. My Grims are my on the spot. I actually did struggle between New Plymouth and Melba. Melba just a little bit southwest of here. Another great team. But New Plymouth. Dallin Rupp there, 4th season. Last year, 4-5. Down year for New Plymouth. But the name of the game in New Plymouth is defense. Defense. And they're returning junior Dylan Hendry. He's joined by senior Tanner Groom, sophomore Nick Woods on the line. Now, what's even better than that is right behind them, you throw in Riley Fard, Jake Wilson behind them. You got a defense that every offensive team is going to struggle against. They're hoping, like in Nampa Christian, that can put points on the board. It's kind of like the magic elixir, so to speak, for the Trojans. So on the offensive side, though, they're not lacking in any way. Riley Harris comes back as a senior. One of my idols in life, Big Tom Callahan, actually once said, a guarantee is only as good as the man who writes it. Well, a quarterback is only as good as the receivers he throws to.
Good Tommy Boy reference.
That's a good one. Very, very well.
Well, Harris has Cody Fernley down the field. He's one of those kids that, Harris can just kind of do a pirouette twice, toss it over his shoulder, and he just kind of grabs it out one hand, brings it down, and pirouettes into the end zone.
Did I hear?
I haven't actually seen that happen. I was talking on my walkie-talkie. Yes. Now, a player to watch, of course, we mentioned Jake Wilson. He is the player to watch. Had over 600 yards last year, 9 TDs. Very talented line to open holes for him, and that's what you need as a running back as well. So they stay healthy. They get leads early, and I think the Pilgrims can go pretty far in the 2A WIC.
We start our regular season games coming up on August 26th and 27th. And during the regular season, nothing will change from what you've come to expect from IdahoSports.com. Webcasts coming from all over the state, from the far reaches of the north to the far reaches of the south and all points in between. And that includes, obviously, some of the small school games. We'll see Grangeville week 1 against Moscow. It's a good opening schedule for fans who just like high school football.
Absolutely. And as that schedule goes up there on your screen, on the 26th, Aberdeen, American Falls. Great rivalry game right there. Is it the Battle of the Reservoir?
War of the Reservoir.
The War of the Reservoir, just to make it harder to say.
Yeah, it's tough to say.
Capital and Bora, another good opening week game. South Fremont versus Gooding. Snake River Blackfoot. Timberline at Emmett. Cuna at BK. Another good rivalry there, even though Cuna's gone 5A. Grangeville at Moscow. Shelley in the Rocky Mountain Rumble versus Snow Canyon, Utah. And Rocky Mountain also in the Rumble Friday night against Pleasant Grove, Utah. On the 27th of August, it's a Saturday, Part 2 of the Rocky Mountain Rumble, Skyview versus Box Elder, Utah. Rigby versus Syracuse, Utah. Highland-Lewiston, big 5A matchup everybody's really watching. And Minico versus Stansbury, Utah. Good opening weekend of football here on IdahoSports.com.
Matt, something that changes in the 2A classification this year, well, actually changes in every classification, but the 8-man football, is the addition of a statewide mercy rule. It doesn't matter if it's a 1A game in Clark Fork or a 5A game at Donna Larson Park in Boise. Every classification has that mercy rule now.
Yeah, and this mercy rule was initially proposed by the 2A Western Idaho Conference, and what it is to basically, so you'd eliminate, huge, ridiculous blowouts. 72-0, for example, is one that was given last year. And so what the rule is now is that once this first half is done, if there is a 40-point margin in terms of difference in score, in a 40-point lead, the clock will start to run. Now, this also can happen at any point in the second half as well. The clock will start to run, and it will run continuously. The only time it stops is for injury timeouts, coach timeouts, or team timeouts, I should say, and officials timeouts, or any time someone scores. Otherwise, the clock will continuously move, and it helps more so, Paul, just because now you don't have schools that are, they're not trying to score, or they're not trying to play as hard, or and then you can allow your your second string and your third string to get in there as well. It's better for the teams. It's better for the fans. You don't have to drag out this beat down basically, and everyone can move on.
I think the point you hit right there is it's better for your second and third strings. You're not just ending a game like the rule used to be in 1A. You let them run. You let them play, and it doesn't happen as often as in the 5A, 4A, 3As. 2As as much. It does happen more in the 2As. It's a little bit closer. But when it does happen, it's good to have. I'm pleased with the decision by the board to approve this. I think it's good for the sport of football. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, I think it's going to be very much appreciated by everybody involved.
Especially yours truly, because it gives me more to talk about on social media.
True.
You want to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Those are the two best ways to. Good math.
All the cool kids are doing it.
Didn't go to math school.
Yeah, none of us did.
You and I ditched class.
3 ways to engage us via social media. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You'll find stuff like photo galleries, schedules, results, big results on Twitter you'll find for games. So make sure to follow us on all those going forward. We'd love to have your presence, love to engage our fans and fans of high school sports in general on social media. That's going to do it for our 2A preview here on IdahoSports.com. We're doing all the way from 1A Division II all the way up to 5A. We got them all. So if you've got an interest level lying somewhere else, feel free to go click on that and watch it as well. Would like to thank Lauren and Tyson, our behind-the-scenes crew here. Matt Harris, Paul Kingsbury. I'm Will Hoenike. We'll see you on August 26th, IdahoSports.com.